Hello and welcome to How Would You Rate Your Pain? We will be exploring life, loss, love, and the power of resilience. I am Dr. Tiffany Bartell. Thank you for listening, and I can't wait to go on this journey with you. Hello and welcome to another episode of How Would You Rate Your Pain, the podcast that explores life, loss, love, and the power of resilience. I'm Dr. Tiffany Bartell. I'm a licensed therapist and your host. Today we're talking about the challenge of big life changes and the agony and the ecstasy of starting your own business. So here to talk to us about today's topic is my friend, Annette Heck. So before we get started in our topic for today, Annette, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell the listeners a little bit about you.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Thanks for having me on the podcast as well. This is a first, so new, but I'm really thrilled for the
You're
opportunity.
already perfect. It's
You're
already
so sweet.
You're already
so wonderful.
Perfect.
I'm Annette Heck. I am, I say hot mess express, 44 years old of trying to figure out life still, but I'm blessed to be a wife to my husband of 16 years. We'll be celebrating our anniversary next month. It's our sweet 16.
Are you doing something special?
Probably just doing dinner with the kids because
that is
we
special.
have, that's
the life. That's the life you've chosen.
Life of being parents. So romantic. But I've been married for 16 years. I have two boys, ages 8 and 10, and we homeschool. And through the midst of all that, we're juggling careers and lives and shifts and things of that nature that I think we'll be talking about today as well. We have two furry dogs that shed a lot, Australian Shepherds.
Those are very furry.
Very furry.
But
12
very
years old.
sweet.
They're incredibly sweet.
Yeah.
And we've had them for 12 years. They were our first fur babies.
Okay,
and,
wow.
I'm trying to think. I love dark chocolate. I love humanity, photography, of course, which is a big piece as well. And then dark chocolate.
Yeah. Circling back to the chocolate.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have maybe had some snacks.
No, that's okay. I had something on the way here, so I'm good. I'm fueled up.
Good. You pre-gamed. That's
Absolutely.
Excellent. So one of the ways that I know you is we've worked at the same university before in the past, but then more recently, and I say recent, it's been 5 years now, I think. You photograph our family through your business, Annette Heck Photography.
Yep.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so it's on Instagram. I really enjoy following your adventures and seeing all the different things that you do. And I think, one of the things that we talked about recently before you were going to come on was that in the last 3 years, I've shifted a lot, vocationally myself. And I don't think I had told you before, but watching you, I remember our very first family photo shoot with you. The business was a little bit, young, but it was such a great experience. And I think you were transitioning, and we'll talk more about that. But just kind of seeing the big, bold way that you launch something new and just have done it with such courage and excellence. She doesn't like compliments, but
well,
we're
I'm
just
laughing.
gonna
I'm going, if only you knew behind the scenes of that launching with courage.
Yeah,
it's a bit more bumbling than courageous, but here we are.
Well, and courage isn't linear, right? And
Very
so, but it gave me a lot of kind of bravery of my own to be able to say, well, I can try something new, and I'll figure it out as I go along, and even starting a podcast, being I don't know anything about podcasts, but I don't know, I'll just
figure it out.
See what it's about and see how people like it. And so so big inspiration. So it means so much that you're in this space with me.
Oh my,
talking about what that looked like for you.
Well, thank you. I mean, I feel like that's so very undeserved, but I really am just honored and flattered because yes, I remember that field, and I love that we did that photo session. And this is a slight tangent, but your husband was so adorable, doing behind the scenes photo, video footage. And I was like, oh my goodness, look how official we feel and look. So
he got pictures of you taking pictures, and we were a big fan from the beginning. Yeah. So tell me a little bit, kind of about maybe your career story. What's your journey been like? So far, because I feel like it has some twists and turns, and maybe hasn't been a straight shot to where you are.
Nope, no straight shot. Those are, I guess, overrated maybe for some.
I know. Does anybody do that? Does anybody just like pick one career and do it forever?
See, they trick
anymore?
us. In college, they say like you pick your path at 19 when your brain isn't fully developed yet, right? That makes total sense. Make the 19-year-old without the fully developed brain choose their path for the rest of their life. But then they set us up for this feeling that it is going to be the straight shot. And mine, and I am, those that know me, I am my lists. I have lists for days. I have like...
You're so organized.
I am an organized type A.
You
like
are.
I like things in order and everything in its place. And so big zigzags aren't quite in line with like my DNA.
Yeah.
But looking back, I'm like, hey, look at the zigzags. That's
probably why you need them.
Yes, exactly. But in short, like the short version is, even back in college, I started pre-med bio. I was going to be a pediatrician. And that was what I said from when I was like 12 years old.
Okay.
That was my vision board. I was going to do that. And then, but that was a pivot. Junior year, God shifted the plans right quick. And I ended up pursuing social work. I didn't even know what social work was, but I discovered what it was. And it was exactly what I needed. It was exactly who as far as what I wanted to pursue. So I got my bachelor's in social work, my master's in social work, full force. So I was going to, this was the next line of thinking, so to speak. And I did in-home therapy, and I was able to do outpatient therapy work as well as work in the school system, which I loved working with kids.
Yeah.
And counseling them and helping and supporting them. And then we ended up shifting to here in the local Chattanooga area, where I came back to my alma mater and got jobs to work at Southern Adventist University, where I was a professor and a program director for social work. My husband was in math. I mean, we were that couple that, we could go meet up at lunch.
Yeah.
And
so walk across campus.
So across campus, all those cute things. And I really thought that was going to be like, this was the riding in the sunset career. I was going to retire here. This was the long range vision.
I think other people hoped that for you too. Like, Annette won't tell you, but she's very beloved and was very, very missed. And they still talk about some of the work and projects you've done. And so, I heard your name before I met you.
Well, I had really amazing colleagues and really amazing students, and I did love everything I did there. But there was another zigzag. So through the zigzags of life, I then ended up switching I was a professor for 11 years at Southern and a program director. And then around that time, I got my doctorate. And as if that wasn't enough, we got pregnant with our first child.
Oh my goodness.
And then we got pregnant with our second child at the end of my doctorate. And then I thought, okay.
So you were having babies while you were doing your PhD?
Yeah, because, why not?
Yeah, bundling.
Dark chocolate.
Yeah, dark chocolate. Okay.
So,
wow. Okay.
So yeah, it was a lot, but I thought, okay, this is, the plan. You get your doctorate, and then you just stay in this job, and this is what you'll do till retirement and the sunset, riding off into the sunset.
Yeah.
So, twists and turns aplenty, and just over time, as becoming mom kind of shifts everything. For all the moms listening, like that kind of rocks your world in the most amazing ways beyond what you could ever imagine. And so there became another zigzag there, and another like ripple of changing and realizing my heart, my motherhood, personhood, I guess, just was desiring something different that helped to support my goals as a mom and a professional. And so then there became another like zigzag to become a business owner, photography. I mean, obviously it didn't happen just all in that little like boom, boom, boom. But that's the long short of it as far as zigzags along the way.
So what was it? What was that decision-making process like for you? Kind of, you're in a profession that you love, where you're doing really well. It's almost easier, I think, to leave if something's wrong.
Absolutely.
Leave a job, but when you're doing well, to make another decision, it's hard to say no to good things.
Right.
Yeah. So what was that like for you? What was the decision-making process like for you to kind of like feel like you could say no to that and say yes to the other?
It was grueling. It was like 2 years worth, because again, 2 years worth of time.
I think it's so helpful for people to hear.
It is, because it's not
they
instant.
just think they see it when it materializes,
right?
But they don't realize all the legwork that you had been putting in.
Right. It was, as far as making the decision, I learned photography in 2016 to be able to better capture my own kids. That's like, I told them even today, we're in the car ride, and I was letting them know Mom is going to be on a podcast, and they're asking me more about that. And I was letting them know, by the way, I have you guys to blame in a very good way, because of you guys, you inspired me to try something new, and that was picking up my camera for the first time to photograph you. And I had no idea that would later develop to this full-blown career and profession and a business that I love, that allows me to now spend more time with you and homeschooling you. Like, so thank you. And they just kind of sat in the back seat, kind of like, okay, cool, Mom. You know, they're 8 and 10 boys. Yeah. It's a little different, but
like,
I was getting emotional.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. So, well, and your husband and boys are such good sports about being models.
They're huge sports, yes.
If anybody goes to your website or Instagram, they are all over.
They are my home team is what I call them. They have helped with helping. It's truly a family business because they've helped load things up to get 2 sessions. Sometimes they've helped me set things up in the morning when I'm like scrambling trying to get out to a school, because I do school photography as well, or if I'm going on location for an outdoor family session. I mean, they have been
loaded up.
They've seen the kind of the thread. I'm not so secretly hoping that one or both of my boys might
like catch the
bug.
I love it.
I'm really hoping they're getting closer to that age where I feel like things like f-stop and aperture and ISO may not totally make their eyes blur. So I'm hoping for that. They are definitely
heavily lobbying for them to join in the activities.
Don't say anything.
We won't. Nobody will tell.
Between us right here.
All of us. Yes. So during those 2 years, what was kind of like, you know, what was your process? What kind of helped guide you to get to the place where, you know, it's a very brave, big, bold thing to try to do something on your own, you know, and to do all the work that makes it be successful?
So it kind of started with just like that nudge, that I started realizing that while I loved my job, while it was a secure job, it was a job that I thought I was going to retire from, I started to feel that pull and tension from motherhood of balancing out and realizing that, okay, saying yes to this means saying no to something else. You know, we hear this all this time. When you say yes to something, it could be a great something, but then you're also saying no to something else. So is that something you're saying yes to worth the no that you're saying no to? And I started to feel kind of there's that tension between, and despite I had the most flexible employers, my bosses were incredible to help us juggle this crazy life that my husband and I chose to live with. We took full care of our kids, so we kind of would tag team, you know, like
so
literally
office hours, class
time, everything, coordinating to 100% take care of them. My parents also helped a lot with pinch hitting when we couldn't cover some things, but for the most part, it was like high-fiving in the parking lot, swapping kids from car to car, having them hang out in my office sometimes when I was maybe meeting with students. So it was a whole thing, and we had really supportive bosses, but I still felt this tension that I wanted, my kids were getting closer to school age, and I started to feel this pull and calling to explore homeschooling. And I wasn't homeschooled. My husband's not homeschooled. This was like nowhere on that plan.
All the new things.
You know, in high school when you do that vision board of like, where do I want to be in 10 years? When I'm a parent, I want to do this. Homeschooling wasn't on that. And neither was...
takes the board.
There's no board anymore. I've kind of just accepted whatever. And we just roll with it. But I kind of started to feel this just tension of wanting to explore homeschooling. And we did. It took a lot of prayer, a whole lot of grueling, trying to figure out how do we navigate now, not just taking care of our kids, but educating our kids while we're also juggling full-time work. And so kindergarten wasn't bad because, you know.
It's kindergarten.
I figured you can't break that. It's like using scissors and experiential play. And so we did kindergarten, and then we did first with my oldest. And it was when my second was about to start kindergarten. So then I would have had a kindergartner and a second grader.
And that's like real school.
It's like then it hits real.
That's real school.
Because now it's 2 kids, not just one. And so trying to juggle those pieces of that world while also juggling my full-time professor work, I just started to just feel it in my core. And I think it was just this anguish of just realizing like, well, I should be really content with what I have here. I feel like I need to become called to something else, but yet it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. I have my doctorate. The safe plan is stick with the doctorate. How can you let it go to waste? How can, you know, quote unquote, you have these advanced degrees, so why would you exchange that for either staying home full-time, homeschooling your kids full-time, or whatever else happens next with my business? At that point, my business was part-time. I started my business in 2018, so it was like a side hustle that I got to do, but it hadn't really flourished, and I didn't imagine it ever would flourish to a full-time endeavor. But all these things kind of start clashing. They started to clash, and that's really what propelled this decision-making process that spanned over 2 years. Lots of prayers and tears, and talking to people who are wiser than I, like my parents. I'm like, Mom, Dad, what should we do? And we're talking with my husband and figuring out
A lot of number crunching, I would imagine.
Oh my goodness.
Are you a spreadsheet decision maker? Because like in our family, we don't make any major decision without like an Excel spreadsheet involved. Yeah.
So I'm married to a mathematician. And so
that's right.
So yeah, there's like the number crunching thing that's to the next level.
Okay.
And he's very like he wants to see it, and I'm also, I want to see the list
organized.
And to do and so yes, there was like mapping out of like, can we do this? Like, can we go down to one salary if, let's say, I didn't know what was going to happen, because running your own business, it's risky. You don't know what your income will be. There's no guarantee, not like a salary job where you know.
Yeah.
So it was,
which is so like, I think it's almost, when we think about it, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Because like you have the most control, but all we like focus on is the liability.
Yep.
Like having your own business is just like, I have all the liability, but you know, I mean, most of the time we're the most dependable person in our lives.
Right.
And so, you know, I think that isn't something we think about when we're making these big shifts all the time, is like, I don't know, like I've showed up for myself for X amount of years. And so I'm pretty dependable versus, you know, institutions, they can love your work, or organizations, but, you know, there could be downsizing or economic, you know, issues or whatever. And so, so it's scary.
It's very scary.
But it, you know, if you've been showing up for yourself.
And I think that's a big thing, like showing up for yourself and kind of being true and realizing what you are being called to and what you're feeling pulled towards. And I had those wrestling thoughts of like, okay, where do I want to show up? You know, I was just about to turn 40 around that time. And so I kind of had this retrospective, you know, looking back for the past 10 years, you know, you do that when you hit those milestone birthdays.
Yes.
You're like, okay, so how were the 30s? How was that decade? Okay, I feel pretty good about how this panned out. When I'm 50 and I look at this decade, what do I want to be able to say and do? Kind of that really forward, backwards thinking. And it was in those moments where I was like, I don't think I want to continue this exact dynamic. I need to shift it so that way I can make more space to be able to homeschool my boys the way I would want to, even more so. Like I want to go to their homeschool PE class, even if it's at 2:00 on a Monday, and not have to necessarily just have more control.
Juggle everything.
Yeah, to juggle and not feel that tension that I felt so much. So it was, I know I'm going like a million different directions.
You're doing perfect. It's perfect. It's a straight line.
Yeah, it's a straight, there's the zigzags again. Yeah. So I think it was just so many talking, praying. A friend suggested the book, The Best Yes by Lisa Turkus, I think is her last name. But it was a perfect timing for me to read that book, because it kind of just puts in perspective what you're saying yes to, kind of going back to that, what you say yes to and what you say no to, and how those are both like yin yang of each other. Yeah. And kind of realizing, just like you were saying with institutions and just jobs in general, like at the end of the day, for most things that we go and get paid for, we're replaceable. Like no matter how good you are replaceable. But there are certain roles in your life that you are irreplaceable. And mom, wife,
that's good.
Daughter, I'm irreplaceable there. And so how did I want to show up in those roles?
My husband has a saying. My husband is full of like old proverbs, which you've met Darren. He's not that old, but he's like, since the moment we met when we were young.
Like a big beard or something.
I know. He's just had all these proverbs, and he tells me probably like once a month there's a conversation that we have where he says, you know, only do what only you can do. You know, and so like if you're looking at like the priorities in your spread, you know, like what are the things like you're saying that only you can do? Well, I'm the only person who can be a mother to my children, or a wife to my husband, or a friend in these relationships, or, you know, whatever. And so I think that's a nice place to kind of like let your decisions branch out from there. It's like, you know, okay, if I took the time I wanted to do the things that only I can do, what time would I have left and energy, and how can I make that work for my budget, and you know,
everything else.
And then, you know, keeping your brain occupied, because I think you and I are very similar in that like we like a little challenge and we like a little something to be working on.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely that kind of what's the next thing to learn or do. My motto is like forever learning.
Yeah,
you know,
I love that.
What else? I'm always learning, whether it's photography, whether it's homeschooling, because I've never taught kids before. So I'm learning how to teach reading and writing.
I don't know, Dr. Heck, I think you're probably going to be just fine.
Doctor in social work is very different than breaking down second grade language arts. I tell you what. Grammar.
Like diagramming sentences. It's a
whole thing.
I don't know if I got it the first time. And
I always joke saying that I feel smartest now that I've been through like K through 4 again.
Okay.
Like now, forget the doctorate. I feel like now I've got it.
Well, and I think you have to like learn it in a different way to be able to like explain it.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think, you know, what I'm hearing is that you had been working on your side business and then making the decision. It wasn't like that moment was when you started this business. You had kind of had it in the wings.
Right.
All along. And I think that's an important thing, you know, for people who are thinking about big changes to think about is same thing for my private practice. I mean, I've had it in some way, shape, or form here in Chattanooga for 7 years. Right. And so, you know, it's like I didn't just decide to quit my day job and immediately go out and I had a full caseload.
Right.
I'd had it on the side all along and then just was able to kind of increase it. And then when I pivoted into, you know, working for myself, then, you know, it wasn't such a big jump. It takes preparation to do big things and not do them in a really distressing way. Yeah.
And a lot of legwork, you know, as you know, too, it takes so much time to build that caseload and to be able to actually build a business from the ground up. Even if it's a side part-time, it takes just as maybe even more time to be able to market and get your name out when you're new and people are trying to figure out like, yeah, but do they know what they're doing? Yeah, but you know, how do they work for business? And so it takes a lot of time.
You're very good at marketing, by the way.
Oh, mercy. It has been so much bumbling around.
I know, like social work to like business owner and marketing agent, like it's just, you do a lovely job. Like,
well, thank you. It's been a whole lot of trial and error. Like, so much trial and error.
Well, and I think one thing you do too is you really take the feedback in, and I really admire that. You know, you're always giving your clients an opportunity to give you feedback and make adjustments. So what would you say is like the hardest part about being a business owner?
Ooh, picking just one.
Okay, the cloud. The cloud. The word cloud.
I think the hardest part, well, for photography, actually photographing my clients, interacting with my clients, editing their photos, which is all the part that I love most. That's 25 to 30% of what I actually do as a business owner, because there's so much else that you have to run and do. And you're it, you know, when you're a sole business owner, I don't have employees. I outsource a few things, but because it is like my third baby, honestly, you know, I have my boys, my dogs, and then my photography business as well, as far as things that I'm keep closer to the chest, just because there is so much that's been poured into it. And so when it comes to I lost my train of thought.
Like the editing and
actually business stuff, it actually takes a whole lot more time. Most of my work, you know, is corresponding with inquiries and the marketing and advertising piece, trying to figure out what
you put out
sticks.
a lot of content.
Social media, it sucks the life out of you. And it's such a vulnerable place too, because I could have an image, I could post it, and it could be crickets, and you're like, yay, nobody saw it, or they just, you know, and it's just, you have to depersonalize.
It was just like a Wednesday, and
right.
people like saw it but didn't have.
And that's partly I've had to like psychologize, if that's even a word, the social media part of things, because in the beginning it was hard. You're vulnerable. This is a new art form that you're doing. You're sharing with the world something you've spent hours on, and then you're posting it in a public forum, and when there's nothing, it like, it hurts a bit. And so I think the social media, the marketing, and the business aspect, the photography stuff, the editing, I like throw myself, like I can't help but consume everything that's out there, because I just love it. It's a passion of mine, and I enjoy it so much. It fuels me. I come home from a session, even if I was out there for 5 hours.
I've
Tiffany,
seen you at the end of those, and you're still joyful.
I'm sweaty. I'm a hot mess. I smell. My hair is all matted down with sweat. But I come home, and the first thing I want to do is like see those images I captured with those families and of those kids and seniors, and I want to load them on my computer and at least take a peek. In the beginning, it was more anxiety, like, oh no, did I get anything good? Now it's just excitement.
You just want to see the goodness.
I just want to see.
You know, it's going to be good.
It charges me. It fuels me. But there is.
So that vulnerability is one of the hard parts.
It's very important.
Have there been any points, because like from the outside looking in, it's like, man, like Annette's just been a smashing success the whole way. Like, whoa, like everything you touch, you have like the Midas touch. It all just turns to gold. From the outside looking in. Have there been times where you felt like, you know, you were a failure, or it wasn't going well, or, you know, I'm
over here pretending to be like, pull up the list.
Okay. Because I I think from the outside in, people are like, oh, well, yeah, that works well for her because it's just, everything she touches turns to magic. But I think that's not always the experience that we have.
No, and it's not reality. What goes on social media, what you see out there is like, that's the best niche or the best piece that you have. But behind that is so many hours of failed attempts of being able to market to my clients, failed attempts of trying to do sessions, and then there's crickets. There's nothing. There's times where there's losses because I rent places, and then if things don't book, then I lose money there. So oh my goodness, yes, there's so many different failures. The marketing piece has probably been the most grueling of it all, because if you don't market and advertise well, that's how people know how to find you. And if you don't have that, word of mouth is probably the biggest piece of business that I get through my clients, which I thank you to anyone out there who does that. I appreciate it so much. I'm always so many more than
just get in that.
Yes, whenever I see someone who just kind of mentions me in a Facebook group or, recommends me, that just fills my heart beyond measure, because it is just so hard to do all those pieces. And when I do them all myself, and I'm self-taught, I've never took a business course. So this is all like literally bumbling through and kind of failing forward and on so many parts of the way. What you see is maybe just the end product, but it was years and years of like trying to figure that out, and still now like trying to, tested that out. Oh, well, that flopped. All right, what's next? And so kind of having that mentality of
the always learning,
always forever learning, forever learning, always.
So what would you say was like the thing you've enjoyed the most about making these big pivots and changes in your life and for your family?
I think having that control, like you mentioned earlier, being able to now know what I'm saying. Well, I already knew what I was saying yes to. And I always say, like, you need to know your why. And that helps kind of give you the courage to do maybe the hard stuff.
Yeah. And
so I knew those two boys, they're growing too fast. And I want to be able to look back and say, I was there. I didn't miss it all. And so
Annette, like, what's been the most rewarding part, or what have you enjoyed the most about making these big changes and pivots?
So the most rewarding has been having that control, to be able to know what I'm saying yes to, being able to have time to dedicate to homeschooling the boys and being able to take them to their PE class. I keep saying that just because we had PE today.
It's on the brain.
And I got to see them like running and being first, and I got to cheer and they got to show me thumbs up, and I was like, yeah, and it's just a PE class, but it was important to them. And I got to be witness to it.
Didn't miss a moment.
And so that's been so rewarding, is knowing that now I can tailor my work and career life around those big things that are most important to me, which right now it's my family. And so now, mind you, this is the hardest I've ever worked in my entire life.
Yeah,
and so,
I don't doubt it. I get those 2 a.m. emails.
Yes. And what's ironic is when on my previous jobs, I always was called like the boundary queen. So here's where it's going to be really funny.
Okay.
People would say, oh, wow, she has such good boundaries. Look at her. She doesn't work after 7 p.m.
Oh, my.
She's, Then you own your own business, and boundaries and everything else are like out the door.
So we have some growth edges.
There's some growth.
Okay.
This is where that forever learning, Tiffany.
Yeah.
Because I know that, and part of it is our lifestyle, right? So in order for me to be able to be at PE at 2:00 on Monday afternoon to see my kids running and doing their kickball challenge, that means that that's work time that I didn't have, right? And so I have to shift that work time to maybe 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. And so I have really weird work schedule because I'm also morphing it into our homeschool lives. And so it's not a clean cut 9 to 5 or, it's all over the place. And it's, and so I've had to kind of accept that, being the boundary queen from my previous life.
You have boundaries. They just are different times of the day now.
Right. It's just different. So now it's like boundaries around homeschooling time. And then that means I'm working late, because then that gives me time to do that. And I'm just trying to also just figure out how to schedule, how to batch things better, how to be more efficient in my workflow.
I think your sessions have gotten super efficient.
I'm working towards that. And then on the back end of editing everything as well, so that way then I'm not kind of having this vortex of time where then I just can't keep up with the work that I'm also doing for my clients, while also not sacrificing their experience. So yes, having that flexibility to be able to do those things, control, it's so rewarding. Doing something that I love, like, if I'm going to say,
so much joy.
It does.
It brings so much joy.
It's such a difference
to everyone involved.
And being able to, if I'm leaving my kids at home, if I'm leaving my kids and husband at home and like losing time with them, then I want what I'm going towards to be worth, to a certain extent. Obviously, it's not like apples to apples,
But you want to
leaving
go
and then having
towards something
that's-
that you're enjoying.
Right.
I think that's like a really nice thing to think about when you're thinking about careers or the things that we spend time doing, whether even socializing. Like if you're going to, leave the family, or if you're going to leave what you're doing, even if you're just leaving your couch, thinking about what am I always going towards?
Right.
What am I moving towards? I really,
does this
that's
energize
wonderful.
me? Yep. Does this work? I can't take credit for that thought. That was from some other trainer. I forgot who it was, but they had made that comment
there's
early
nothing
on.
new under the sun.
Right.
Yeah,
That they had said, if I'm a mom and I'm losing time with my kids at home right now, then I want what I'm moving towards to also kind of offset a bit of that.
It has to be for a good reason.
Yeah, it has to be for a good reason. And sometimes it isn't. And sometimes I do say no. And so that's part of the boundaries too.
I love it. I love that so much. So, if there's people who are listening that are thinking about making big changes, or, maybe starting their own business, what advice would you have for them, or what things would you hope they would think about from hearing your story today?
Give yourself grace. I think that's a big thing. I was so hard on myself when I was going to change out of this very safe, a career that I loved to something that was totally risky. Like there was no guarantee on what that would look like to be a homeschooling family plus also running my own business. There's no telling how long the kids want to homeschool. So anyway, I think giving yourself grace in the unknown to kind of figure things out. Allow yourself to pivot as much as needed.
It's okay to make a decision about what is the best thing right now, given the information you have right now.
Exactly. I feel like that's what they should tell us back in college. Instead of, hey, choose a degree for the rest of your life, it should be maybe like, and maybe I might ruffle some college professors listening, but after living
good advice.
I am as type A, like what she says she's going to do as you get. And yet that had to shift when I became a mom. That changed something within me that I had to allow my career to morph with that. And if I had been so rigid to stick with it, then I think it would have been honestly just detrimental to my mental health and everything else. And so I think giving yourself permission to explore those things. And when you're in college, say, what's something that I see maybe for the next 10 years that I could find joy in that works?
Or what do I want to study for the next 4 years?
Oh, yeah. Maybe you start, maybe it's just 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years.
Shrink it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Shrink it
maybe
if you
shrink
have
it
to.
down. But the whole life range plan is just, I think, ludicrous.
So heavy. I think
very
that's
heavy.
really heavy. And I just don't think the research bears out that that's like what people are generally doing. I mean, this is, being a therapist is not my first career. Right. And I think my husband's on his third big career. We joke he does everything for like 10 years. And so I was like...
10 years, there's a plan.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, listen, like we're too old now. Like you can't start something completely different. Like specialize in something.
Specialize in something.
Yeah, on the side. Like, but yeah, I really like that advice. So, you mentioned your support system in different ways. What kind of support was helpful to you? Was there anything that was not helpful to you? Because, some people may not be thinking about those choices themselves, but maybe people that they love, are feeling that tug of war or that like restlessness of something's got to give. What kind of support was helpful and anything that wasn't helpful? I think that's helpful to talk about too.
Absolutely. Well, we all have our village, right?
Yeah,
and I would be remiss to say that I wouldn't be in this spot without the support of my husband and my parents, especially. Those were the three that were kind of there going, okay, if you're feeling this, if this is taking this kind of toll on your mental health, your satisfaction, you're feeling all these feelings that aren't just fading out after 2 weeks. It was, 6 months, then it was a year, then it was a year and a half. And we're like, okay, it's time to change.
I like that.
So I think
you could trust they told you could trust how you felt.
Right. I was able to give license to myself to really own it and say, okay, this is what I feel, and it's okay to feel this, even if it clashes with what I thought my life plan was going to be.
Yeah.
So I think having that village, whoever that might be, who can help you talk through and process, and then knowing it isn't overnight, instant anything. Most things that are really rewarding to have takes a lot of time, a lot of time that no one will ever see. Yeah. You will have the late nights and the tears, but that's part of just the growing process through that. So I think having that village, giving yourself grace to explore what maybe you can find and utilize, and then giving yourself the opportunity to try.
So
and
just people
fail.
People that are willing to be like, why don't you just try it?
Yeah.
Why don't you just try it and see what happens? It's not the pressure to succeed. Right. It's just, the choice of like, well, if you're going to change something, why don't you try changing and just see what happens.
Right. And small scale too, like what you were saying, where you had your business on the side.
Yeah.
I had my business on the side while I was also working full time. So it was safe. It was enough to dabble. I mean, my first sessions, I didn't even charge. I had people pay to a local charity because I was like, I don't even know if I'm worth being paid for myself.
Oh, my goodness.
Let me do good by at least trying
this
this
social
out.
worker.
It's a social worker.
Yeah, when you put the social worker and the photographer together.
It was right
there.
But it was a safer way for me to experiment and see if this is something that I enjoyed photographing others.
Made it safer for you.
Finding a safe way, if you need to kind of dabble.
Test the waters.
And test the waters.
I like that.
I needed that for myself. There was no way I could have gone from full-time professor to all of a sudden business owner. And honestly, I would have tanked because it took so many years of just building the business to get it where then when I did leave my full-time job, that I was able to then lean into the business more. But that didn't happen right away. It was like several years later.
I don't know many people that have that experience.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But I think it's the myth, right? Of just like by the time it's visible to a larger audience, it feels like it just happened. And all of a sudden you're a whiz at it.
Yeah, no, many years of just hard work and just kind of
working on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you talked about your like 12-year-old self with your vision board. So 44-year-old you looking back at 12-year-old you, like what would you go back and say? Would you give her any like feedback or pointers or things to like ponder?
Yes, I would say don't do the bangs. Sorry, I had those hideous, and I have naturally curly hair, so I knew I had really awful bangs. So that would be the first tip. But then for the real life, the real life bomb.
You're like, you'll thank me for this later.
Yes, exactly. Please
grow the bangs out.
Say no to the bangs. Just don't do the bangs. But then besides that, for the career, I would say to just have more grace because I think being type A and kind of list oriented, these shifts and pivots that I've had in my career were like earth shattering in those rightful moments because it was such a big change from what I said I was going to do. I was going back on my own word. That's what it felt like. I was letting myself down and whoever else I had said this to. So I would tell her, give grace.
It's not a promise.
Yeah, just kind of figure it out. Let yourself see what's working for that season of your life and be okay with what that is until it no longer works and go again. And that's where we kind of are now, trying to figure that out. But I would definitely be a bit more gracious to just the twists and turns because I don't think anyone, like you said, I don't think anyone's line is a straight shot. It's very few.
Very few.
Very few.
Very few.
My husband might be the only one. He said he was going to be a math teacher, math professor, and here he is. Like
he's doing it.
Years later, he is thriving and he's amazing what he does. He's going to be riding to the sunset, retiring from his math professor.
Yeah. So for those of you who are really attached to your vision board, it's okay to also do it. Yeah.
Yes. It's not a bad thing, but just be graceful to yourself when maybe you realize it doesn't necessarily work the way you thought it would for that season of life. And there's not just your career self, but there's yourself in your relationships, whether you have a family, whether just you with your friendships. Those are all important parts of your personhood and who you are. And so it's really critical to make sure that all kind of aligns and supports what you want to do.
Because you're really the same person, right? Like, you wanted to help children and interact with families as a pediatrician, and then you found a way to do that as a social worker, and now you're doing that as a photographer.
Yeah.
And
Kids
so
and
it's
families,
just you. In what we do, I think it's important to kind of like ground yourself in like who you are as a person, like what are your values, like what makes you you.
Absolutely.
And then what you end up doing with that can change.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't feel like you lost yourself because you spent, 11 years as a professor. No, you didn't just find yourself now. You just are doing something different with yourself that you've always been.
Absolutely. It's just another pivot.
Just another pivot. I love that so much. So I was listening to this podcast and it was talking about the power of gratitude and how, a lot of times we use, gratitude for the past, people who have helped us, things that have brought us where we are. And we'll also use gratitude in the present. Even your therapist will assign you, make a gratitude list, gratitude journal. Okay. But they were talking about like gratitude from your future self. And how, like, when you think about your future self, your brain actually registers that as a different person, like a separate person. And we as humans, we're so much more likely to sacrifice for someone else, to make a hard choice, to exercise self-control, to do hard things for someone else, and it's harder to do it just for us.
Absolutely.
And so they were talking about like the power of like, thinking, what would my future self thank me for, in this moment, in this season of life.
I love that.
Yeah. So think about, you brought up the 10 years, several times. So what would like 54-year-old you thank you for, do you think, in this season of how you're doing life with your family and your business and everything?
My future self would thank me for being willing to take the risks of the unknown.
So brave.
Even though that's so counterintuitive to my DNA. It hurts so much to make those plunges.
But you do it in such a planned way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Planned chaos. Hey.
Yeah.
And I would thank myself for making my career choices align with my family goals and desires, because I know I'll never regret that. Those kids are growing so fast, and
so fast.
I won't ever be sad that I was able to be there more. And so I think that would be the big thing, is that I let the family and career piece somehow sift out. And I recognize that's a privilege. It's not something that's always possible.
Right.
So I don't take it for granted. Not 1 minute. Not 1 day.
Oh, I love that so much. Well, Annette, thank you so much for coming in. I know that like all of the public praise made you very uncomfortable, but you managed it well. You only
I'm squirming over here.
It's good for you. And I also want to thank our listeners for coming and listening to this episode. I know that as you're listening, many of you are resonating with a lot of things that we talked about today, either for yourself or someone that you love. And as always, I want to encourage you to find spaces where your story and your thoughts and feelings can be held, because you deserve it. And remember that being brave and courageous and bold doesn't always look like a straight line, and it takes time sometimes to get ourselves where we want to be, and you have that time to get there, as long as we kind of hold that grace that Annette's been talking about along the process, because we want to feel like we're enough, whether we're at the beginning of building something new or we're right in the middle of it being built. Just want to encourage you to subscribe, share with others, and be gentle with yourself. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to How Would You Rate Your Pain? Please subscribe on your favorite listening platform so you never miss an episode. And if this show made you think of someone, please share it with them to help us grow. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Bartell. You can find me on Instagram at the_happy_therapist_. This show is not intended as medical advice and should not take the place of therapy or other mental health services. Please consult with your doctor or mental health provider about your own health. You deserve all the support. How Would You Rate Your Pain is co-produced by WaveLength Studios and Chattanooga Podcast Studios and is part of the Podnuga Network. Graphic design provided by Josh Wilhem at JW Creates and music by Michael Crosa. I'm Dr. Tiffany Bartell. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time right here on How Would You Rate Your Pain?